Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. I hope you guys are enjoying the video so far. The last video we did the new post on that house that I'm working on right now, which some of you commented or emailed me, no, it's not my house, that's a client's house that they're redoing. I'm not rehabbing my house, that's all done. I got some Baltic birch 3/4 inch plywood and we're going to start cutting that up. I'm going to start to make the base cabinets for the side surround built-in units. They got a bookshelves on top. There's going to be a 2-door cabinet on the bottom that's got a shelf. So I'm going to start with the base cabinets. I'm going to assemble the base cabinets, cut everything up, then I'll do the bookshelf tops. And then what I'll do is I'll bring it there in pieces. And then after they have their granite hearth installed and the tile around their fireplace, then I can get started doing the mantle and the surround for the TV and everything on site.
Now I'll just use my track saw to break the plywood panels down. It's very hard to cut these on the table saw because they're very heavy and awkward. Once I have the pieces broken down, then it's more manageable and much more safe to run them through the table saw and bring them down to their final dimensions. I'm using my router table with a 3/4 inch dado bit so that I can make dados for the shelves to assemble the carcass. That'll make it much more strong. Also, the plywood that I'm using, the Baltic birch, is actual 3/4, so a 3/4 bit makes a perfect dado. Now to cross cut my bigger pieces, I'll use my panel sled. Here I'm going to use the drill bit and I'm going to just make a small hole through the dados from the inside out, and then what I'll do is flip it over and countersink those holes so I know exactly where my screws are going to go to assemble this box and there's no guesswork. I'm gluing the dados before I assemble the carcass here. We'll give it the added strength that it needs to last forever, and then I can screw it from the outside. The best part about it being a paintable cabinet is the painter can fill those screw holes before he paints the cabinet and they'll be completely hidden. Always check square as you build and make sure that you stay perfect throughout the whole thing. I'm using my miter saw to cross cut the stretchers, and I have a stop block installed on my miter saw stand, and that's going to help me keep everything the same size. Now the top supports and the rear stretchers and braces will all be installed with pocket screws, and those will all be hidden once they go up against the wall. Now I'm working with some 4/4 poplar here, and I'm going to mill it down to 3/4, but first I'm going to let it dry out by milling it down to 13/16 and letting it sit overnight and acclimate.
Now for the stiles and rails on the face frame, and even for the stiles and rails of the doors, I'm going to be using poplar. It's a very paintable wood.
Now for the stiles and rails, a little bit of glue and some 18 gauge brad nails. Hold it in place. Just a quick sanding with a random orbital sand will take care of any glue residue that I had from the squeeze out when I nailed these in.
Alright guys, so the face frames are installed. Now what I'm going to do is put some edge banding right here so that I don't take up any room in the middle, because I'm going to make another style right down the center over here, and that's going to have a nice spot for the doors to close on. Okay, so I found my center. I marked the center of my middle stile, and I marked the center of the rail on the bottom and the rail on the top. And now I'm just squaring everything up. So I met those lines. And look at that, perfectly square. Not an ounce of light coming through there. So we're perfect 90. Now I'm just going to pocket screw it in, put a little glue, pocket screw from the back on both sides, top and bottom, and then I'll be ready to start framing out the doors.
Now I have to make a rabbet in the back of the door for a recessed panel, but what I'm going to do is use the router bit to mark off the location of how far it's going to go. This way I know where to position my pocket screws. Now I can assemble the doors, and I know that once I put in the router table to make the rabbet in the back of the door for the recessed panel, I know I'm not going to hit these screws. Now we use the router table and run the rabbet through the back of the door. The router bit leaves a rounded edge, so I'll just square that up with a chisel in the corner. Now the client wanted some kind of an open grate for the door, so for the heat dissipation of some subwoofers and some electrical boxes that they're going to have there, for their TVs. So they chose the grate, so now I'm going to cut it to size and install it in the rabbet of the doors. I have to make these grates for the inner panel removable in the event that they damage these, because they are pretty flimsy and they really don't have any extra support. So I'm going to sandwich them between these two wooden trim pieces here, and then I'm going to screw it down, and then they can just take a screwdriver, unscrew it, replace it if they damage it, and screw it back together. I'll use wooden plugs to fill the pocket hole screws on the door, so this way once it's painted everything is going to be solid and you'll never see these. And after the glue sets, I'll use a flush trim saw, flush it up with the door, a little sanding, and everything will be perfect. I'm just going to mark the location for the hinges. I'm going to put the hinge up at the top and the bottom, and what I'll do is I'll just use the length of the hinge to get the position of where I want it. Now I'll position the door against the hinges exactly where I need it, and then I'll clamp it in place so that I can screw it to the hinges. Now it's time to install the handle, so I'm going to mark down 3 inches, and that is the length from the top that the customer's cabinet handles are, and these are the same handles as the kitchen cabinets, and since it's going to be remotely close to it, I'm going to make it exactly the same. I'm tracing the location of the handles for where the screw holes are going to go. This way I know where I have to pre-drill. After tracing the handles, I had a perfect square, so now what I'll do is use a straight edge and make an X through that square corner to corner, and then I'll use a brad point drill bit and drill through the exact center of that. And that's exactly where the screw has to go, and that'll center my handle perfectly.
Okay guys, so this came out really nice. That's the end of the video for part 1, which is the base cabinet. So I'm going to make an identical cabinet this. I'm going to do that off camera to save some time. So I'm going to have this cabinet on the left side and an identical cabinet on the right side. And then I can start in the next video. I'll be starting on the top upper book shelves for these units. And once I get all that built, I'm going to start bringing it to the client's house. And then once I have it there, I'm waiting for them to get their granite installed around the fireplace. And then I can start to move everything in and build the mantle on site. So this is part 1, and make sure you join me for part 2. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram. Don't forget to subscribe, and welcome to the new subscribers. And if you're here for the first time, make sure you come back. All right, guys, I'll see you next time.